the weather, sunny Tuesday afternoon. You got it. It's the 9th day of January, 2018. Talk to you about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned. 888 Mad Dog 6, two-way sports talk telephone number. On a huge day, nice to have you with us here on a great Sirius XM 82 with Eddie Erickson and Colin Schmelling and all the fellas. Yours truly, Christopher Russo, as we begin a broadcast day here on your favorite little sports talk channel on the Sirius XM universe. Well, you know, today was a day I wanted to go do a panel today, a Hall of Fame roundtable deal over on MLB Network. I had to be there about 8 o'clock this morning, 8:15, and so that enabled me to have to drive to Secaucus, New Jersey. And believe it or not, my car, which they still haven't figured out a way, this is Sirius's people, to put the XM in on Sirius. They say, Chris, you got to pay. So I'm still working on that with the folks upstairs, including Cohen, who can't get the store. I had to take the big Jeep, and the big Suburban. Unfortunately, that Suburban does have Sirius XM. So, and then I was in the car going down, did the round table, and then I was in the car coming back. And I am here to apologize for what I would consider faulty broadcasting and faulty analysis by our morning program and by our afternoon show. And I am here to correct their mistakes and see if I can get that done here in the next 3 hours, as we'll get your phone calls in too at 888 Mad Dog 6, because from Mike Babchak not realizing that they don't kick an extra point in overtime, from fallacies out of Evan, and then of course Steve Cohen with his own brand of hygienics. This was a day that would not necessarily be remembered in Sirius XM lexicon as far as sports talk is concerned on the great Sirius Mad Dog Radio on Sirius XM 82, because they did not really, I didn't hear Adam, and I'm sure Adam did a wonderful job. They did not break down this game properly with Georgia and Alabama in the title game last night down in Atlanta. This game was not analyzed the way it needs to be analyzed, and so I'm going to do that and provide a service to Steve and to Evan and to Babchak, and hopefully they listen and learn, and we will provide that as we move it along here on this busy afternoon. First off, I don't know where those two were, Steve and Evan, but anybody out there who did not think that Nick Saban was about to change quarterbacks at the half last night is not watching the same game I'm watching. I mean, I told 20 people, I said, you got to get this kid out of here. Hurts stinks. He was terrible against Auburn. He was not that good against Clemson. He was awful against Auburn. He can't throw the ball. They're behind 13-0. They're putting 8 guys in the box. You must get him out of there. Obviously, Rinaldi figured that out because he specifically asked a question to Saban at the half about his quarterback play. What's the story about the QB in your offense? So there were, and Herbstreit brought up the idea in the first half that there is a quarterback there that they have on their sidelines that is, a huge player who throws the football very well. And I'm telling you right now, and I bet Alabama, so I'm focused on everything else. I am so focused on what they were doing offensively. The idea that basically Nick Saban was Dwight Eisenhower in Normandy at the half and made an incredible decision to go out there and switch quarterbacks. I swear to God, I don't know what everybody's thinking about. Now, I may have given, if it was me, I may have given Hurts one more series in the start of the third quarter at 13-0. Since Alabama was getting the ball first, I may have given him one more series, but he was out of there. And I didn't even know that Tua, whatever his name is, as Torrey said this afternoon, the lefty quarterback from Hawaii, I didn't realize, I knew that I had heard of him because I had heard people discuss it, that fact that they had a good recruit who could throw the ball. That's what I heard. I did not realize he was a 5-star recruit. I did not realize that Saban got him from Hawaii, went there to get him, and I did not realize he threw 52 passes in 2017. And, I certainly didn't realize that Kirby Smart knew that he was sitting there on those sidelines as well. But anybody out there who watched this game last night and the pathetic performance by the Alabama offense in the first half and did not consider, you know what, we got to get Hurts out of here. He can't throw the ball. Outside of one running play, he's done absolutely nothing. We are about to get blown out of the championship game here in Atlanta. That crowd is frenzied. We must do something. And I'm telling you, yes, Saban did the right thing, and yes, Saban's a Hall of Fame coach. Nobody's arguing that. And but the idea that somehow he made it that he was Lombardi going forward on third down with 16 seconds left against Dallas in the Ice Bowl, not kicking a game-tying field goal, instead a wedge with Starr. What heroics from Vince? The idea that is on the same level is a bunch of nonsense. I'm telling you right now, and everybody that I was working with last night said the same exact thing. At the half, they had to do something. That quarterback was awful. And if anybody saw the Auburn game, in Auburn, he was awful. Now, again, I don't know. I knew they had a backup who could throw the ball. That's all I knew. I did not realize that he was a 5-star recruit. So I was amazed. The take this morning on our channel and this afternoon that a gutty, courageous, they use the bad language. It's what we have a tendency to do. I can't figure it out. That's the first thing. The second thing is, folks, listen, it was a scenario where this is all about Georgia and how they lost the game. This is not about how Alabama won the game. The kid made one throw. All right. Now, it was a great throw, and it came off the sack in OT, but he made one throw in the game. The game-tying touchdown was a touchdown that he didn't know who he was throwing the ball to, for crying out loud. And somehow it got to Ridley in the back of the end zone. He basically made one throw. Now, listen, I know he had the drive there, but he also threw a terrible interception. He had a 3-and-out, a couple of bad sacks. I mean, he played well, don't get me wrong, but they lost this game, Georgia, not because the lefty from Hawaii overcame them with incredible performance and unbelievable energy and superb spirit. They lost this game for a variety of reasons, and he's about number 5 on the list. They lost this game because the officials did an absolutely atrocious job, and I'm going to highlight the plays in a minute in the second half. They lost this game because Kirby Smart got very, very, very conservative. They threw 2 passes after the Fromm interception off the helmet. He threw into the last drive of 2020. He threw 2 passes in the next quarter and a half. 2. That's it. 2 passes. That's all he threw. Here's a guy who was killing Alabama on third down in the first half. He's got a 20-7 lead after he threw an 80-yard bomb, which is a wonderful play. He threw 2 passes. That's number 2. And number 3, the safety made a bad read on the bomb down the left sideline in the overtime. That's where they lost this game. The idea, Alabama is as lucky, and listen, I'm an Alabama fan. I like Saban. I bet him. I was on all over him last night. And unlike Babchek, I knew that they were not going to kick the extra point in overtime. I was all over. I gave up 4, not 3.5. I was all over Alabama. I had Alabama last year. I had Alabama a year before that. I had Alabama against Auburn. I've had Alabama. I never win with them, but I take them all the time. So I appreciate Alabama. I appreciate the head coach. He's one of the great coaches in the history of professional sport. And, the thing I like about him is he doesn't want to get wrapped up in it. Last night when they said you've tied, he's got the 6 championships, 5 with Alabama. You've now tied Bear Bryant. He didn't want to hear it. He says, I'm not wrapped up in that. I care about this team and the fact we won. And I'm a big Saban fan. But Alabama got an absolute gift, a Christmas gift late last night. There is absolutely no way they should have won that game. They were outplayed. They threw interceptions. Their quarterback was awful the first half. Their defense was not as good as you think it would be. They gave up, again, aforementioned, ton of completions on third down. They gave up a bomb for 6 at 13-7 when they had a little momentum in the game. The Fromm made a terrible pass off the helmet, right off the pick, which they had a chance to put the game away. I mean, Alabama got gift. And I'm telling you right now, unlike the Georgia game with Oklahoma, which I had forgotten to mention last week, which was a beautifully officiated game in the Rose Bowl. They stayed out of the way. That was a ACC crew. They stayed out of the way. Nothing of major controversy, and they did a tremendous job. The officials last night were absolutely lost in the second half. And count the plays that went against Georgia. And if any of the plays were called correctly, Georgia wins the game. He was not offsides on the punt, and it was a block punt. Not offsides. That was a block punt. Could you imagine if they called that properly and didn't call the offsides and called the penalty on Alabama for moving, which they did? Can you imagine they would have had the ball at the Alabama 25-yard line, up 13-0, a minute and a half into the half. Game's over. And even if they kick a field goal, the game is over. It's 16-0. That's number one. Number two, Alabama scores on one of their kickoffs. They have a 15-yard penalty that somehow doesn't get called on a face mask. The series ended up at the 11-yard line. How about starting the series at the 30? Number three, and I looked up where it was. After Fromm ran for a yard down to the Alabama 40-yard line late in the third quarter, and the score I think at the time was 20-10. They did not, unbelievable, did not call a late hit on Alabama, who hit from in the head and banged it on the turf right in front of the side judge and did not call it. If they did call it, did you know that Georgia would have had a first down at the Alabama 23-yard line? And it was 22-10 at that point. Did you know that? Did you know that? Those are three. And then how about the pass interference, which set up the Alabama tying touchdown on 3rd and 9 with 6 minutes left on the right sideline? You don't call that in that situation. That wasn't pass interference, for crying out loud. And that play went against Georgia, and Alabama eventually scored. And if you want to throw one more thing in, and I got to see it again, everybody's screaming at me today about the offensive movement on the play which the touchdown was scored upon, which tied the game up, for crying out loud. That is about 6 to 7 plays that somehow, some way, all went against Georgia. The intentional, the unnecessary roughness, the face mask, the block punt, the pass interference, the movement on the, and then the 5 plays, and then the movement on the touchdown which tied the game up at 2020. 2020. So although Steve Torrey went to bed with a huge smile on his face because he thinks he saw a breathtaking finish, and it was a thrilling game, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, that game, if you're a Georgia fan, you are sick forever. Now, listen, your coach didn't do a good job. You know, the quarterback had been playing really well. They hadn't run the ball that great all day. You kept on throwing Nick Chubb at me. You needed to go out there and you needed to throw the ball a little bit. Maybe not at the play right off the interception, which they did throw, but you needed to throw the ball some late in that game, just to keep everybody calmed down and sort of keep the Alabama defense honest. They did not do that. That was terrible. Fromm made a terrible pass play, and he hit the helmet. That was a terrible. The safety made a terrible decision when he went the wrong way on the bomb down the left sideline and win the game. So there are things here that Georgia is self-inflicted. I'm not arguing that. But the idea that somehow they got a fair whistle in this game is absurd. And any of the whistles, with the possible exception of the face mask on the kickoff, because they may have scored on, that may have been the touchdown when they threw the bomb. Because, I can't find where that was because it was not called. So in the play-by-play sheet, it's not there. But any one of those penalties, if they were called properly, which is the block punt, the pass interference, the illegal motion, the late hit on the quarterback, if any of those penalties were called properly, we're not even having a discussion on this game. There's nothing to discuss. The game is over. If the defensive back gets called properly for the late hit on Fromm, late third quarter, it's 20-10, and the ball is at the Alabama 23-yard line, 1st and 10. You want to pick up the game from there and tell me what happens? With a good field goal kicker. Shall we pick up the game from there and start it late third quarter? And if you want to go earlier than that, I'd be very happy to do so. Somehow the side judge screwed up on the scenario with the defensive lineman or the defensive back who was rushing the punter, and somehow he got all confused of where he was lining up. Let's say that we let that play stand. We throw the flag for the illegal motion on Alabama, which somehow they missed, and we have the block punt recovered by Georgia at the 25-yard line. Should we pick up the play there? First drive, third quarter, 13-0 Georgia, 3 out Alabama, Bulldog football at the Alabama 23-yard line. You want to start the game then? Or how about we go 3rd and 9 on the pass interference and call it like it should have been called and incomplete? and it's 4th and 9, and he's got a punt with 6 minutes to go, still down by a touchdown. Should we do that? Or should I call an illegal motion on the Alabama touchdown, which tied the game up at 2020? Which penalty would you like me to go to? I'll go to any one you want. And before we put, and Saban's going to Hall of Fame anyway, before we canonize Saban for this incredible move at the half, I swear to God, I got 30 witnesses. I said that you better start canonizing me and make me a football coach, because everybody I had to talk to last night at this time, with a minute or so to go in half, and at halftime, says, Chris, you got to get this guy out of here. I said, absolutely. He stunk again. He wasn't great against Clemson. He was beyond bad against Auburn. He wasn't even great last year in the championship game outside of that last run, which set up Watson to win the game. They're down 13-0. He can't throw the ball. He can't throw the ball off a boat into the ocean. Get him the hell out of here. My goodness gracious. And I'll be honest, I said, no, maybe I give him one series in the third quarter. Maybe. But the idea that Messrs. Torrey, Evan, well, Babchuk doesn't know, but that all of a sudden this is the greatest move in the history of football. Oh, calm down, please. All of you, calm down. Have a clue. If Chris Russo in his living room in New Canaan is saying get the quarterback out, and Saban gets the quarterback out, and Tom Rinaldi says it, and Herb Street tells us in the first half they got a quarterback who can throw the ball, Kirby Smart expects it, we can't sit there and canonize Nick Saban, can we? This is a championship that Alabama stole. And you think if this is sour grapes with Christopher Russo, if that's what you're thinking, boy, Russo must have. Think again. I bet Alabama -4. Just getting started. 888 Mad Dog 6. Back after this.